subject of intense debate for many weeks. Tonight, finally, they face our audience, the voters. Welcome to Question Time. And good evening and welcome, and as ever the panel haven't seen the questions they're going to be asked tonight, so let's have the very first one from Peter Logg, please. Peter Logg.
Given that the Second World War was fuelled by the need to disarm oppressive and racist regimes, is it fair that the BNP has hijacked Churchill as its own?
Is it fair the BNP has hijacked Churchill? Jack Straw.
It's certainly not fair, and one of the extraordinary things about the Second World War and the First World War was not only that we fought Nazism in the Second World War and defeated it, a party and an ideology based on race, just like another party represented here today, based on race, fundamental to its constitution. And it's that difference, by the way, the fact that the BNP defines itself on race, which distinguishes it from every other political party I can think of.
Nick Griffin, you said if Churchill were alive today, his own place would be in the British National Party. Why do you say that? And why did you hijack his reputation?
I say that Churchill would belong in the British National Party because no other party would have him for what he said in the early days of mass immigration into this country, for the fact that, quote, they're only coming for our benefit system, and for the fact that in his younger days he was extremely critical of the dangers of fundamentalist Islam, in a way which would now be described as Islamophobic. I believe that the whole of the effort in the Second World War and the First was designed to preserve British sovereignty, British freedom, which Jack Straw's government is now giving away lock, stock and barrel to the European Union, and to prevent this country being invaded by foreigners. Finally, my father was in the RAF during the Second World War, while Mr Straw's father was in prison for refusing to fight Adolf Hitler.
Wait a minute, what's that got to do with the issue? What's that got to do with the issue?
Mr Straw was attacking me, and I've been relentlessly attacked and demonised over the last few days. And the fact is that my father was in the RAF during the Second World War. I am not a Nazi. Right. I never have been.
The man there.
See, I think it's an absolute disgrace that you can't even sort of take on board what Jack Straw has said. Your organisation has been going for over 9,500 days. It's only in the past month or so that you've actually had your hands behind your back and you've been forced to look at accepting people of sort of a different racial and ethnic background. And for just 1 minute, could you not think of the benefits that my parents brought to this country and other parents from an Asian, from an Indian, from a Pakistani background have brought? No. All you're thinking of doing is trying to sort of poison politics. And yes, you are, poison politics and poison the minds of people in this country. The vast majority of this audience, find what you stand for to be completely disgusting and reprehensible. Completely disgusting.
You want to answer that? Briefly, if you would.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I appreciate that if you look at some of the things I'm quoted as having said in the Daily Mail Day and so on, I'd be a monster. Those things are outrageous lies.
Which is the untrue quote that's been said about you? The Holocaust denial, possibly?
The vast majority of them. Far too many to go into, but...
all right, let's just go to denying the Holocaust, Francis. Did you deny the Holocaust?
I did not have a conviction for Holocaust denial.
But you did deny it? Why are you smiling? It's not a particularly amusing issue.
We had this in the 1930s against the Jews, the 1960s against the blacks, and now Nick Griffin's playing the same old game, hatred and fear, peddling hatred and fear against a minority that actually has to defend itself. And I think that's outrageous. It's completely against the traditions of this country. And I think Churchill would frankly be rolling in his grave.
I am the most loathed man in Britain in the eyes of Britain's Nazis. There are Nazis in Britain, and they loathe me because I have brought the British National Party from being, frankly, an anti-Semitic and racist organisation into being the only political party which in the clashes between Israel and Gaza, stood full square behind Israel's right to deal with Hamas terrorists.
Well, answer this point.
And you're committed to stemming the flow and reversing the flow of immigration into the UK so that we revert back to a white Britain. Where do you want me to go? This is my country. I love this country. I'm part of this country. You know what? I was born here. I was educated here. You'd be surprised how many people will have a whip round to buy you a ticket and your supporters to go... to go to the South Pole. It's a colourless landscape. It will suit you fine.
Present. I think if you look at this audience and if you look at the reaction that there's been out there in the British public, they're absolutely appalled by the values of Mr Griffin. But in a way, I'm glad that this programme has taken place, because actually Mr Griffin hasn't been able to put forward his normal PR version of who he is, but he's been exposed for what he really is.
Okay. Nick Griffin, do you regard this as an early Christmas present? I saw you saying thank you, Auntie, for being invited on Question Time.
Actually, there's another word put into my mouth by journalists. I didn't say thank you, Auntie. I don't regard the BBC as Auntie. I regard the BBC as part of overall a thoroughly unpleasant, ultra-leftist establishment, which, as we've seen here tonight, doesn't even want the English to be recognised as an existing people. I think it's wrong.
You never answered the question.
But the BBC, all they've in the end done, as Chris said, really, all the BBC have done has followed the rules that they set some years ago. We crossed the threshold. It would have been wrong to keep us off any longer, so the BBC has just done what they really had to do, and I'm sure it's been a large audience and possibly of interest to some people, so what's the problem?